They say courage is doing something even when you're scared. I was terrified when I walked into that clubhouse. 11 years old with a black eye and a question that sounded crazy even to me. Can you be my dad for one day? Everyone thinks this story is about a kid finding courage. About 32 bikers showing up when nobody else would. But that's not where this fire started, Captain Mitchell. The real fire started the moment I stopped being ashamed to ask for help. When I learned that family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shows up when your world is burning down. If you've ever felt invisible, you'll understand this story. Subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The heavy door of the motorcycle clubhouse swung open on a Tuesday afternoon, letting in a shaft of golden sunlight and something nobody expected: me. I stood in the doorway, backpack hanging off one shoulder, my sneakers scuffed and too small. I'd outgrown them months ago, but Mom's double shifts at the hospital barely covered rent. New shoes weren't in the budget. The conversations died mid-sentence. Pool cues froze. Someone turned down the radio playing in the corner. 12 bikers stared at me, at the 11-year-old who just walked into their world uninvited. Ray, the chapter president, set down his coffee. His eyes were sharp despite the gray in his beard, and they locked onto my face. That's when he saw it. The purple bruise blooming around my left eye, fresh enough that the edges still carried hints of red. "You lost, kid?" Cole called from the corner, his tone more curious than aggressive. My throat bobbed. My hands twisted the straps of my backpack. For a second, I thought about bolting, running back to my bike, pretending this never happened. But then I thought about Friday, about career day, about Brandon Pierce and his lawyer father in the three-piece suit, about sitting alone at my desk while everyone else's parents talked about their important jobs. I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and said the words that would change everything. "Can you be my dad for one day?" The silence that followed had weight. I could feel it pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. Ray's eyes found another biker first, tall guy with a tattoo on his neck. Then Marco, who had scars on his knuckles like he'd punched his way through something hard. Cole's hand unconsciously touched his ribs, like he was remembering something painful. "Career day," I continued, my voice steadier now that I'd started. "At school next Friday. Everyone's bringing their parents to talk about their jobs." I paused, swallowed hard. "I don't have anyone to bring." Ray stood slowly. His leather vest creaked as he moved. "What about your folks?" "My real dad died in Afghanistan." The words came out flat. I'd said them so many times they'd lost their edges. 4 years ago." "And your mom's boyfriend?" Ray's eyes flickered to the bruise again. I stopped. My fingers unconsciously touched the tender skin around my eye. "Keith, he's not really the career day type." Marco moved closer, crouching down to my eye level. His dark eyes were kind but sharp. "That shiner, how'd you get it?" "Fell off my bike." "Try again." My facade crumbled. The story I'd practiced, the lie I'd told the school nurse, all of it just fell apart. "Keith, that's my mom's boyfriend." My voice dropped. "He gets mad when she's at work. She does double shifts at the hospital, so she's gone a lot. Yesterday I forgot to take out the trash." I had to stop, had to breathe. The clubhouse was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. He said I was useless, just like my dead dad. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Cole's jaw clenched. Finn's knuckles went white around his beer bottle. Ray's eyes went cold in a way that should have scared me but didn't. "And school?" Ray asked gently. "How's that going?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "There's this kid, Brandon. He and his friends corner me every day. They call me Orphan Boy, push me into lockers, steal my lunch." I looked down at my shoes, the scuffed, too small shoes that announced to everyone that I was poor, that I was different. "Last week they threw my dad's dog tags in the trash. I had to dig through garbage to find them." My hand went to my chest, where the dog tags hung under my shirt. The only thing I had left of him. "Why us?" Finn asked quietly. "Why the Hells Angels?" I met his eyes. Because you're not afraid of anyone. Brandon's dad is some big lawyer. Nobody stands up to them. Teachers look the other way. Principal says, boys will be boys. I gestured around the room at the leather vests, the patches, the men who looked like they'd survived wars of their own. But you guys, everyone respects you. Everyone's a little scared of you. I thought maybe if you came, just for one day, they'd leave me alone. My voice cracked on the last part. I'd have someone in my corner. The bikers looked at each other. No words were spoken, but I could see entire conversations happening in those glances. Ray nodded at Marco. Cole touched his ribs again. Luis, the quiet one in the back, closed his eyes like he was remembering something painful. They'd all been me once. I could see it in their faces. Ray made his decision. Friday, you said? I nodded, hope flickering in my chest like a candle in the wind. What time? 9:30. Room 204. Ray turned to the other bikers. Who's got Friday morning free? Every single hand went up. Every single one. All right then. Ray looked back at me, and for the first time in what felt like years, I smiled. A real smile. We'll be there, all of us. My eyes went wide. Really? Really? Ray's voice went serious. But Ethan? This thing with Keith, does your mom know? The smile faded. She's so tired all the time. She's working so hard to keep us afloat after Dad died. I don't want to make things harder. Protecting your mom by taking hits isn't noble, kid. It's just more pain. I don't know what else to do. Ray knelt down, putting us eye to eye. His hand landed on my shoulder, heavy and warm. You just did it. You asked for help. That takes more guts than most men ever show. He squeezed my shoulder. We're going to handle this. Career day is just the beginning. As I left the clubhouse that day, my backpack felt lighter somehow. The weight I'd been carrying, the fear, the loneliness, the shame, it didn't press down as hard. I walked to my bike and noticed something different about my steps. They were stronger. They carried a weight they hadn't before. Not burden, but purpose. Friday morning arrived with gray clouds that threatened rain. I woke at 5 a.m., too anxious to sleep. I'd replayed Ray's promise 1,000 times in my mind, terrified it had been just words. Adults made promises. Adults broke them. That's what I'd learned. I dressed carefully in my only button-up shirt, the one Mom had bought for Dad's funeral. My fingers trembled as I buttoned it. In the kitchen, Mom kissed my forehead. She noticed I'd barely touched my cereal. Big day, sweetheart. Yeah, career day. She hesitated, guilt crossing her face. Ethan, I'm sorry I couldn't take off work. The hospital is so short-staffed, and with the overtime I can pick up... It's okay, Mom. I figured something out. She studied my face, seeing something different there. Something that looked almost like confidence. You sure you're all right? I'm sure. At school, Brandon was waiting by the lockers with his usual crew. Dylan and Parker both bigger than me. Both cruel in that casual way kids with money could afford to be. Look who showed up, Brandon sneered, stepping into my path. Ready for your big presentation, orphan boy? I kept walking, head down, trying to slip past. Oh, wait. Brandon's voice followed me. You don't have anyone coming, do you? My dad's bringing his Mercedes. What's yours bringing? He paused for effect. Oh, right, a coffin. Dylan shoved me into the lockers. My shoulder screamed in pain, but I didn't react. I just kept walking toward room 204, counting my steps, breathing through my nose the way my real dad taught me when the world felt too big. 1, 2, 3. Just keep moving. By 9:15, the classroom was filling with parents. Brandon's father arrived in a 3-piece suit, shaking hands like he was running for office Stephen Pierce. Big lawyer, big reputation, big ego. Dylan's mom came in wearing scrubs, a stethoscope around her neck. She was a doctor. Parker's dad wore his pilot uniform, all crisp authority and gold buttons. I sat in the back row, watching the clock. The minutes crawled. Each tick tightened the knot in my chest. 9:20, 9:25, 9:28. They weren't coming. Of course they weren't. Why would they? I was just some kid who walked into their clubhouse. They had real lives, real responsibilities. Then, just past 9:30, the rumble started. It was distant at first, like thunder rolling in from miles away. But it grew, and grew, until the windows rattled and conversation stopped. Everyone, students, teachers, parents, rushed to look outside. 32 motorcycles rolled into the school parking lot in perfect V-formation. Chrome gleamed even under the gray sky. Engines roared in synchronized harmony. The Hells Angels had arrived. My heart nearly exploded out of my chest. They came. They actually came. Ray led the procession, his bike the loudest, his presence commanding. They parked in a perfect V, killed their engines simultaneously, and dismounted like a military unit. Every jacket bore the winged death's head patch. Every face carried the weathered look of men who'd survived their own wars. Ms. Walker, my teacher, stood frozen at her desk as the bikers filed into her classroom. They were too big for the space, too raw, too real. Brandon's father stepped back, his hand instinctively going to his phone. "Ethan Hayes!" Ray's voice filled the room. I stood, legs shaking. "Here. We're here for you, kid." The classroom exploded in whispers. Brandon's smirk had vanished completely. His father looked like he'd swallowed glass. Ray addressed the class with the calm authority of someone used to leading men. "Morning, everyone. We're the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Ethan asked us to talk about what we do. So, let's get into it." He started with the basics: how motorcycles work, the engineering behind them, the physics of balance and torque. Kids leaned forward, actually interested. Cole stepped forward next and talked about their community programs: toy drives for children's hospitals, fundraisers for veterans, escort services for abuse survivors going to court. "Most people see the patches and make assumptions," Cole said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "They think we're criminals, thugs, dangerous." He paused, letting that sink in. Brotherhood means being there when it counts, especially when it's hard. Then Luis moved to the front. He was quieter than the others, his eyes carrying old wounds that hadn't fully healed. "I grew up in a house where love looked like a fist," he began. The room went completely silent. Even the whispers stopped. "My father drank," he raged. "He made me believe I was nothing." By 13, I was heading down the same path, fighting, stealing, hating everyone, including myself. I watched my classmates lean forward. Even Brandon was listening now, something complicated working across his face. Then I met Ray. He gave me a choice: keep destroying myself, or build something better. This club, this family, they taught me that real strength isn't about violence. Luis's voice roughened with emotion. "It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about breaking cycles instead of continuing them." Ms. Walker was crying quietly at her desk. Marco pulled out a stack of photos. "This is Finn at 15, living on the streets. This is Cole after 3 tours in Iraq with nobody waiting at home. This is Ray the day his daughter said she was proud of him." He looked directly at me. "We're not perfect. We've all got scars, but we choose every day to be better than what broke us." Ray turned to face me. The entire class turned with him. "Ethan asked us to be his dad for 1 day. But here's the thing, kid." His voice carried across the room, strong and clear. "Real family doesn't work on schedules. You're stuck with us now." The entire class erupted in applause. Dylan was clapping. Parker looked stunned. Brandon sat frozen, his hands in his lap, staring at nothing. After the presentation, as parents filed out, Stephen Pierce approached Ray with a forced smile, the kind lawyers use when they're trying to intimidate without being obvious about it. "Quite the performance." Ray met his eyes steadily. No aggression, but no backing down either. "Your boy gives Ethan trouble. That stops today." The lawyer's smile died. "Are you threatening my son?" "I'm promising. There's a difference." Stephen Pierce opened his mouth, then closed it. Whatever he saw in Ray's eyes made him think better of whatever he was about to say. Outside, as the bikers prepared to leave, I couldn't find words big enough for what I felt. Ray just squeezed my shoulder. "See you tomorrow, kid. We're teaching you to change oil." As 32 engines roared back to life, I stood in the parking lot and watched my family ride away. Something shifted in my chest. A door opening that I didn't know had been locked. The weekend passed in a blur of normalcy that felt almost surreal. I spent Saturday at the clubhouse learning basic motorcycle maintenance. My hands got black with grease. My smile was impossible to wipe away. Ray taught me how to check oil levels. Marco showed me the difference between a wrench and a socket. Finn let me sit on his bike and pretend to ride it while it was parked. For 2 days, the weight I'd carried since my father died felt lighter, but Monday brought reality crashing back. Keith had seen the video some parent had posted it on Facebook. Local bikers steal the show at career day, and it had spread through the community like wildfire. By the time Keith stumbled home Monday evening, 3 beers deep and smoldering with humiliation, he'd watched it 17 times. I heard the truck before I saw it, that particular engine growl that made my stomach clench, the sound of gravel under tires that meant danger was home. I was at the kitchen table doing homework when Keith kicked the door open. "You think you're special now?" His words slurred at the edges. "Got your little biker friends?" Mom wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. I calculated escape routes automatically. Front door, blocked by Keith. Back door, through the kitchen. My phone was upstairs in my room. "I asked you a question." Keith moved closer. I could smell the beer, the rage, the familiar scent of violence about to break loose. "I just needed someone for career day." "You made me look like garbage." Keith's face was flushed, his eyes bloodshot. Everyone at the bar was talking about it. Poor Ethan, no father figure. Like I'm not standing right there. His hand shot out and grabbed my shirt, lifting me slightly off the chair. "You got a father figure right here." The words escaped before I could stop them, before I could think. "You're not my father." Keith's face went purple. His fist drew back. I closed my eyes, body tensing for impact. The blow never landed. Keith's fist hung in the air for a moment, then he lowered it. Not because he'd changed his mind, but because something else caught his attention. 6 years, he said, his voice dropping to something more dangerous than shouting. 6 years I've been here, 6 years putting up with you and your dead hero dad. He shoved me backward. I stumbled, catching myself on the counter. "You know what everyone says? Poor Joyce, raising that boy alone, so brave. Nobody sees what I do. Nobody appreciates." He swept his arm across the counter. Dishes crashed to the floor. Glass shattered. "Keith, stop! Don't tell me to stop!" He grabbed a framed photo from the wall, me and my dad in his uniform, and threw it across the room. It exploded against the opposite wall. "I'm sick of living in a dead man's shadow." He lurched toward the stove where Mom had left papers, bills mostly, stacked on the counter. A candle sat nearby, the kind Mom lit when she was stressed. It was burning now, the flame dancing. Keith's elbow caught it as he grabbed the papers. The candle tipped. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast at the same time. The candle hit the stack of papers. Flames caught immediately, hungry and bright. Keith stumbled backward, drunk and unsteady, knocking the burning papers onto the curtains above the sink. The curtains went up like they'd been soaked in gasoline. "Look what you made me do." Keith's voice was panicked now, the rage shifting to fear. The fire spread fast, faster than I thought possible. The curtains, the wooden cabinets, the dish towels hanging on the oven handle. Smoke filled the kitchen, thick and black and choking. I moved toward the back door, but flames were already climbing the wall beside it. The heat pushed me back. "Keith!" I coughed, my eyes burning. "We need to get out!" But Keith wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the fire with the glazed expression of someone too drunk to process what was happening. He stumbled toward the front door, leaving me behind. The smoke detector started screaming, high-pitched and relentless. I crouched low like my dad taught me once. If there's ever a fire, stay low. Smoke rises, clean air is near the floor. But there wasn't much clean air left. The kitchen was an inferno now. Flames licked across the ceiling. The heat was unbearable. I couldn't get to the back door. The fire blocked it. The front door meant going through the living room where Keith had disappeared. My eyes watered. My lungs burned. Every breath felt like inhaling glass. I thought about Mom, about how she'd come home to find the house burned, about the dog tags hanging around my neck, the last piece of my dad. I thought about Ray and the bikers, about how I'd just found them, just found people who cared. I wasn't ready to die. I crawled toward the dining room, trying to get away from the worst of the smoke, the table. I could hide under the table, stay low, wait for what? Keith to come back? He was already outside. He'd left me. The smoke was getting thicker. My head felt light, dizzy. Outside, I could hear shouting, neighbors, someone yelling about calling 911. Then, through the roar of the flames and the screaming smoke detector, I heard it: motorcycles. Ray had been watching the house. He wouldn't tell me this until later, but after career day, after seeing my black eye and hearing about Keith, he'd been keeping an eye on things riding past a few times a day, making sure. Bad feeling, he'd say later. The kind you get when you've been where you were. He'd been 3 blocks away when he saw the smoke Cole saw it first. Ray, that's Ethan's street. They didn't discuss it, didn't debate. 4 bikes, Ray, Cole, Marco, and Finn, just opened their throttles and flew. They arrived to chaos. Keith stumbling out the front door, drunk and disoriented, smoke billowing out behind him. Neighbors gathering on the lawn. Someone on their phone with 911, but nobody going inside. Nobody looking for me. Cole grabbed Keith, slammed him against his truck. Where's the kid? Keith's eyes were unfocused. House is on fire. I tried to... Where is Ethan? Inside, I think. I don't... Captain Mitchell, there's a kid inside. A neighbor was shouting, pointing at the house. I saw him through the window earlier. Ray was already moving. I heard the front door crash open. Through the smoke, through my watering eyes, I saw a figure moving low and fast. Ethan! The voice cut through the chaos, strong, commanding. Where are you? Here! I tried to yell, but it came out as a cough. Table! Hands grabbed me, strong hands that pulled me up and toward the door. I got you, kid. Stay low. Captain Mitchell. He had one arm around me, guiding me through the smoke-filled living room. The heat was intense. I could hear wood cracking, glass shattering from the kitchen. Then we were outside. Cold air hit my face. I gasped, coughed, gasped again. My lungs screamed as I tried to pull in clean air. Captain Mitchell lowered me to the grass. Breathe. Just breathe. Marco appeared with a bottle of water, helping me rinse my eyes, my face behind us. The house burned. Orange flames visible through the kitchen windows now. Black smoke pouring out the front door. Finn and another biker ran up with fire extinguishers from their bikes. They rushed inside, targeting the flames, trying to contain it before it spread to the whole house. Fire truck sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. You're okay, Captain Mitchell was saying. His face was streaked with soot, his eyes intense. You're okay. But he didn't look okay. He looked furious. Cole still had Keith pinned against the truck. Keith's face was white, shock setting in through the alcohol. Captain Mitchell stood, leaving me with Marco, and walked over to Keith. The look on his face made my breath catch for a different reason. He's 11 years old. Captain Mitchell's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. You left an 11-year-old in a burning house. I didn't. It was an accident. You were drunk. You started the fire. And you ran. Finn appeared beside Ray, holding a manila folder. Where it came from, I had no idea. But the bikers always seemed to be 3 steps ahead. Finn opened it, showing Keith the contents. Even from the grass, I could see what was inside. Photos of me, of my bruises over the past 6 months, time-stamped, my black eye, the split lip from 2 months ago, the finger-shaped bruises on my arm from when Keith grabbed me too hard. School nurse has been documenting for months, Finn said, building a case, waiting for the right moment. Marco added from beside me, "Your girlfriend Joyce's co-workers at the hospital noticed her injuries too, the ones you blamed on her being clumsy." Captain Mitchell pulled out another document. "Protective order, ready to file. We've got 3 witnesses who will testify. Joyce's lawyer, a real one, is prepared to pursue full custody protection." Keith's face had gone from white to gray. "You can't—" "We already did." The fire trucks arrived, their sirens cutting off as they pulled up. Firefighters jumped out, moving with practiced efficiency. Hoses, water, controlled chaos. Captain Mitchell pulled Keith away from the truck, away from the growing crowd of neighbors, closer to where the bikers stood in a tight circle. "You have 2 choices, Keith. Make one now." Keith looked around. At the burning house, at the firefighters, at the bikers surrounding him, at me sitting on the grass, soot-covered and coughing. "Choice 1, Captain Mitchell continued, his voice level. "You pack your things tonight. You leave. You never contact Joyce or Ethan again. You disappear. We'll hold on to these files, but we won't file them. You get to walk away clean, start over somewhere else." He paused. "Choice 2. We file everything tonight. Police get involved. Child Protective Services gets involved. Joyce pursues charges for domestic violence. Yes, we've got evidence of that too. You'll be arrested by morning. Everyone in this town will know exactly who you are." Behind them, firefighters were containing the blaze. Water arcing through the broken kitchen windows. Smoke still pouring out, but the orange glow was fading. Keith deflated. His bravado, his rage, all of it just collapsed under the weight of consequence. He looked at me one last time. For a moment, something almost like regret crossed his face, but it passed. "I need an hour to pack." Marco checked his watch. "You've got 30 minutes. We'll wait." 28 minutes later, Keith's truck pulled out of the driveway, packed with everything he owned. The bikers had stood silent watch as he loaded boxes, making sure he took nothing that belonged to Mom or me, making sure he understood this wasn't a negotiation. As the taillights disappeared down the street, Captain Mitchell pulled out his phone. "Joyce, it's Ray. It's done. Keith's gone. Ethan's safe." He paused, listening. "House had a fire, but the department got it controlled. Kitchen's damaged, some smoke throughout, but structure's intact, insurance will cover it." I sat on the curb, wrapped in a blanket one of the neighbors had brought, watching the firefighters finish their work. The house looked wounded, black soot around the windows, water dripping from the eaves, the kitchen visible through the broken window, charred and destroyed, but it was still standing. Finn sat down beside me. "You did good, kid." "I almost died." "But you didn't." He squeezed my shoulder. "You stayed low. You stayed calm. Your dad taught you well." My throat tightened. Both of them. When Mom arrived 30 minutes later, she didn't even look at the house first. She ran straight to me. Her hands were on my face, checking for injuries, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Are you hurt? Did he—" "I'm okay, Mom. Captain Mitchell got me out." She looked up at Ray, at the bikers standing around us, at the fire trucks and the damaged house and the whole chaotic scene. "Is he really gone?" "He won't be back," Captain Mitchell said. "We made that very clear." She collapsed onto the curb beside me, pulling me into her arms. The tears came then. Not sad tears, but relief. Pure, overwhelming relief flooding through her like a dam breaking. "I'm so sorry," she whispered into my hair. "I should have seen it. Should have protected you. You were working. You were trying to keep us alive." "That's not an excuse." She pulled back, looking at me with red eyes. "You're my baby. My job is to protect you." "You did," I said. "You brought me into a world where I could find them." I gestured at the bikers. Mom looked at Ray. "Why? Why would you do all this for us?" Ray's expression softened. "Because someone needed to, and because your son was brave enough to ask." That night, after the fire marshal cleared the house, after the insurance adjuster took photos, after the neighbors finally stopped hovering, Mom and I sat in our smoke-damaged living room. The bikers had left, the fire trucks had gone. It was just us. My phone buzzed, a text from Ray. "Sleep tight, kid. We're around if you need us." For the first time in years, I felt safe in my own house. That night, I slept through to morning. Deep, dreamless sleep I hadn't known in years. In the weeks after Keith's departure, the clubhouse became my second home. I showed up most afternoons, doing homework at the bar while bikers worked on engines. The smell of motor oil and leather became as familiar as home. My grades improved. The bruises faded completely. Mom smiled more, the worry lines around her eyes softening. But Ray noticed something else. Brandon had stopped bullying me completely. No more shoves, no insults, nothing. But the kid looked worse, quieter, withdrawn, dark circles under his eyes that Ray recognized too well. "Cole," Ray said one Thursday afternoon, watching through the clubhouse window as I worked on a carburetor. "That Brandon kid, the bully, something's off. You want to help the kid who tortured Ethan for months?" Hurt people, Ray said. "I want to know why he's hurt." Cole made some calls. By Friday, they had answers. Brandon's mother had died 3 years earlier, cancer that came fast and vicious. His father, Stephen Pierce, that polished lawyer, had been drowning in grief ever since. Drinking became the only way he could function. Work consumed him when he wasn't drunk. Brandon essentially raised himself while his father worked 16-hour days or sat in his study with bourbon. "The kid's acting out because he's alone," Cole reported. "Dad's physically there but emotionally gone. Brandon's got money, got a house, got everything except what matters." Ray drummed his fingers on the table. "So Brandon becomes the bully because he's getting bullied at home. Not with fists, but with absence. Ethan had Keith. Brandon has a ghost wearing his father's face." Ray stood. Decision made. "Then we fix it." Finn looked up from the engine he was working on. The kid tortured Ethan for months, and Ethan had us. Ray grabbed his keys. "Who does Brandon have?" "We break cycles," Marco added quietly. "That's what we do." The next morning, Ray and Cole showed up at Stephen Pierce's law office unannounced. The receptionist tried to stop them. "Mr. Pierce is in a meeting." They walked past her anyway. Stephen looked up from his desk, irritation flashing across his face. His eyes were bloodshot. A coffee cup sat beside him that probably wasn't just coffee. "Your son is drowning," Ray said simply. No greeting, no preamble. "And you're too drunk to notice." Stephen's hand tightened on his pen. "Get out of my office." "When's the last time you had dinner with him?" "Sober." Silence. "When's the last time you asked about his day?" Cole's voice was gentle but firm. "Looked at him without seeing your dead wife? You need to leave now." "We know about the drinking, Stephen." Ray pulled out a chair, sat down uninvited. "We're not here to judge. We're here because we've been lost. Drowning. Pain so big you need to numb it just to survive." Stephen's jaw worked. His hands shook slightly as he set down the pen. "I don't know how to be a father without her." The words came out broken, raw. Ray leaned forward. "My daughter was 7 when her mother left. I was patched into the club, drowning in bottles just like you. One night I came home and found her making dinner. A 7-year-old trying to feed herself because I was too wasted." His voice roughened with old shame. "That was my rock bottom, finding her standing on a chair at the stove, trying to cook mac and cheese because her dad couldn't." Stephen's eyes were wet. "It's not too late for you," Cole said. He slid a business card across the desk. "Veterans Support Group. Meets Tuesday and Thursday nights. You served, right?" Stephen nodded, surprised they knew. "So did half of us. These guys get it. Grief, loss, the weight of coming home when others didn't." Cole stood. "Your son needs his father back, the real one." Ray moved to the door, then paused. "But this only works if you both want it. We'll help Brandon too. Youth mentorship program we run, but you have to do your part." 3 days later, Stephen attended his first meeting. He broke down twice, nearly left 3 times, but Ray sat beside him the entire 2 hours. a steady presence when everything else felt like it was falling apart. Brandon was harder to reach. When Marco approached him after school the following week, the kid's defenses shot up immediately. I'm not going to some stupid program. 12 kids your age working on motorcycles, learning carpentry, talking about real stuff. Marco crossed his arms. Ethan goes, that stopped Brandon cold. What? Ethan? He's in it, once a week. Been building a bookshelf. Does pretty good work. Brandon looked away, his jaw working. I was horrible to him. Yeah, you were. Why would he want me there? Ask him yourself. The confrontation happened at the clubhouse the following Saturday. I was sanding a piece of wood, the final panel for my bookshelf, when the door opened. Marco walked in with someone behind him. Brandon Pierce. The workshop went quiet. Ray looked up from the engine he was working on. Cole's hand stilled on the wrench. Finn turned around. Positioned between me and Brandon without making it obvious, Brandon stood in the doorway, looking smaller than he did at school. His eyes were red-rimmed, dark circles underneath. We stared at each other across the workshop. I'm sorry. His voice cracked on the words. For everything. The things I said about your dad. The locker stuff. Throwing away the dog tags. Brandon's hands twisted together. I was angry at my own life, and I took it out on you. That doesn't make it okay, but I'm sorry. I studied him for a long moment. I'd replayed those incidents in my mind so many times. The humiliation, the fear, the way he'd made me feel invisible and worthless. But I'd also learned something from Ray. From all of them. Carrying hate was heavier than letting it go. Your mom died, right? Brandon nodded, surprised. That sucks. I set down the sandpaper. My dad died too. I picked up a spare piece of sandpaper, tossed it to him. He caught it reflexively. You want to help me finish this bookshelf? I'm terrible at corners. Brandon's eyes widened. Serious? Ray says we're better at building things than breaking them. I gestured to the wood. Might as well start now. Something shifted in Brandon's face. Relief. Hope. The beginnings of something like healing. He walked over to the workbench, picked up the wood I'd been struggling with. My mom taught me woodworking, he said quietly, before she got sick. I could show you how to get the angles right. Ray caught my eye from across the room, gave me a small nod. This was what strength looked like. Not revenge, not holding on to pain, building something new instead. The months unfolded one day at a time. Brandon and I weren't friends overnight. Trust doesn't work that way. But we were something. Workshop partners, then lunch table acquaintances, then slowly, carefully friends. Stephen Pierce got sober, day by day, week by week. Ray sat with him through the hard nights. The group held him up when he wanted to fall. I watched Stephen at one of the youth program meetings, teaching Brandon how to use a lathe. Actually present, actually seeing his son. The house got repaired. Insurance covered most of it. The bikers helped with the rest, showing up on weekends with tools and materials. Ray knew a contractor. Finn knew electrical. Marco could tile. Mom watched from the kitchen window as a dozen bikers rebuilt what Keith had destroyed. I don't know how to thank them, she said to me one Saturday. You don't have to. That's the point. She smiled, tears in her eyes. When did you get so wise? Had good teachers. My grades climbed. Honor, roll by spring. Mom got a promotion at the hospital. Finally off the double shifts. She smiled more. Laughed more. The house felt lighter. The clubhouse remained my second home. I learned to change oil, replace spark plugs, rebuild a carburetor. My hands were always greasy. My clothes smelled like motor oil. I'd never been happier. Dylan and Parker, Brandon's old crew, drifted away when Brandon stopped being their ringleader. They found new targets, but they left me alone. Word got around school about what happened, about the bikers, about Keith. Nobody messed with me after that. Years passed in that strange way they do. Fast and slow simultaneously. Brandon and I became best friends. Both of us fixtures at the clubhouse, both of us learning from men who'd survived their own fires. Stephen Pierce stayed sober, 5 years and counting. He started coaching Little League, showed up to every game, every practice, making up for lost time one day at a time. Mom finished her nursing degree, got certified as a nurse practitioner, better pay, better hours, better life. She started dating again eventually. A guy named Michael who worked at the hospital. He was kind, patient. He asked about me, wanted to know me. Ray approved. Good guy, he said after meeting Michael. Doesn't have that edge Keith had. Life got normal. Good normal. Then graduation day arrived with perfect sunshine. I stood backstage in my cap and gown, waiting for my turn at the podium valedictorian. Me, the kid who'd been failing out 3 years ago. Through the curtain, I could see the crowd. Mom in the third row, beaming Michael beside her. Ms. Walker, my old teacher, in the faculty section. And in the back, standing against the wall because they were too restless to sit, 32 bikers in leather vests. Ray caught my eye, gave me a thumbs up. My hands were shaking as I walked to the podium. Everyone talks about family like it's just biology, I began, my voice carrying across the silent auditorium. Like the people who share your DNA are automatically your people. But I learned something different. I looked out at the faces, at my classmates, at Brandon sitting with Stephen, both of them in matching ties. Family is the people who show up when your world falls apart. Family is a group of bikers who answered a desperate kid's question and stayed long after they had to. My eyes found Ray. They taught me that strength isn't about intimidation. It's about protection. That real men build others up instead of tearing them down. That asking for help isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. Brandon wiped his eyes. Stephen squeezed his son's shoulder, pride written across his face. I walked into a clubhouse 3 years ago with a black eye and a question that sounded crazy. Can you be my dad for one day? And 32 men said yes. Not just for one day. Forever. My voice caught. So to everyone here, find your people. Be someone's people. Show up. Stay. That's what matters. That's what saves lives. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, Ray found me in the crowd. He held out a folded leather vest. I unfolded it slowly. Black leather, well worn. On the back, a patch read, Honorary Brother, Forever Family. You earned this, Ray said. My hand shook as I pulled it on. It fit perfectly. The bikers erupted in cheers. Every single one of them. A roar of approval that made people turn and stare. Mom hugged me tight, tears streaming down her face. Your father would be so proud. Which one? I asked, grinning through my own tears. She laughed, the sound bright and free. All of them. Brandon came over, his own graduation gown still on. Nice speech, man. Learned from the best. Stephen extended his hand. Thank you, Ethan, for giving my son a second chance, for showing me it's not too late. I shook his hand. We all needed second chances. Ray gathered us together, me, Brandon, Mom, Stephen, all the bikers. For a photo, someone's mom took it. We stood there, this unlikely family, arms around each other. Later I'd frame that photo, put it on my desk through college, through my first job, through everything that came after. A reminder of what happened when one scared kid decided to walk through a door and ask for help.
That was Ethan Hayes. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. We got the call around 7:30 that Monday evening. Kitchen fire, smoke visible from the street, possible occupant trapped. What dispatch didn't know was that Ray and his crew had already been on their way. They'd been keeping an eye on that house since career day. They had a feeling about Keith, the kind of feeling you get when you've been where Ethan was. When we arrived, the fire was active and spreading. Keith stumbled out drunk, and Ethan was still inside. I've responded to a lot of domestic fires in my 18 years at this station. Houses burn for a lot of reasons: accidents, faulty wiring, carelessness. But sometimes a fire is the physical manifestation of something that's been burning for a long time: Keith's rage, Ethan's fear, the slow burn of abuse that nobody outside those walls could see. The kitchen was destroyed that night. Smoke damage throughout the house, but the structure held. Insurance covered the repairs. The bikers did the rest. The real miracle wasn't putting out that fire, though. It was what happened when one scared 11-year-old decided to walk into a clubhouse and ask for help. 32 men who'd survived their own fires showed up. Not just for career day, forever. They taught Ethan how to change oil, how to rebuild an engine, how to sand wood and build a bookshelf. But more than that, they taught him what family actually means. It's not about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who sees you at your worst and says, "You're worth fighting for." Brandon learned that too. His own fire was different. Loss, grief, a father drowning in bottles instead of rage. But the cure was the same. Community. People who refuse to let you burn alone. I see it in this job all the time. People who think they're too broken to be fixed, too far gone to be saved. Kids who believe nobody cares whether they live or die. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to show up. Ray didn't have to answer Ethan's question. Those bikers didn't have to show up to career day. They didn't have to stand watch over that house, or confront Keith, or help rebuild the kitchen, or mentor two broken boys through their teenage years. But they did. Because that's what real strength looks like. Not intimidation, not violence, not proving you're tougher than everyone else. It's protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's breaking cycles instead of continuing them. It's showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. If someone in your life needs help, be the person who shows up. Don't wait for them to fall apart completely. Don't wait for the fire to start. And if you need help, be brave enough to ask. That question, "Can you help me?" might feel like weakness, like admitting defeat. But it's the strongest thing you'll ever do. Ethan walked through that clubhouse door with nothing but desperation and a black eye. He walked out with 32 fathers, a brother in Brandon, a mother who could finally breathe, a future that looked nothing like his past. Sometimes the family you choose saves your life more than the one you're born into. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. Stay safe out there.